With an ever-growing number of use cases of AI in insurance, the question arises of where do we start? Joseph Lou, Director of Longevity Science at Legal & General, is going to share his perspective on the use of AI in enhancing analytics, one of the most fundamental uses of the technology. Excellent analytics lead to useful insights and profitable actions. So enabling the best possible understanding of our markets will naturally lead to critical improvement across the whole value chain. On that note, please give a warm welcome to Joseph Lou.
Hello, welcome back from lunch. It's wonderful to have so many people here, and it's a great conference, especially when it coincides with some of the areas that I'm passionate about. The purpose of this conference is to share experiences and ideas about how to successfully adopt AI within the area of analytics. I think it's especially important with the emergence of computing power and AI, these new technologies. I'm interested to know what to use and for what purposes and when. I can tell you the when now, which is now. Let's focus on the technology to be used now. Yes, I will base it on something concrete, which is within an area that I'm familiar with, I've been working on. It is within the business of individual annuities markets in the UK. It's a 4 to 5 billion pounds market. We have to quote about 6 million quotes a year. We need to take account of 350 to 400 medical conditions, some 6,000 medical medicines, and we need to do it real time, almost real time, within 7 seconds, provide the price, and after analyzing all the data, it will eventually become personalized because we take account of all the various health factors. If you look around you, if you find someone who is about the same height, but that person may not be of the same weight. So even if you find someone with the same weight, they may not be of the same blood pressure. So that is the level of granularity that we go into. And because of that context, I think the emergence of AI is very important and give us plenty of opportunity. In terms of finding what technology to be used, so I'll begin with actually not looking at the technology, the value of the technology, but the value that we are producing for our customers. So looking within ourselves, the key capability, the core competence that we need to have a medical underwriting. I just set them out into 5, and I will go within each of them to look at potential opportunities for AI. The first is the capture of data. 6 million quotes. There are not 6 million people because the same person may ask for 10 or 20 quotes with varying options, such as inflation or not for a spouse or not for annuities. And then we need to use all this information. And within our system, somebody counted for me, is that there are 250,000 rules because you need to look at the blood pressure, height, and so on. 250,000 rules, and then we need to go back to the customers with a price, and that price is guaranteed for life. So we have a very short time to do a lot of work for a very long guarantee, legally guaranteed price. And those are the front office. At the back office, we need to derive these mortality assumptions based on their health and medical condition. And then we'll need to manage them for management information. So there's a lot to talk about. I would like to talk about them in terms of some building blocks. The adoption of AI, I would like to split them into 3 main drivers at this junction, because in 6 months' time, the main drivers may change. The first is risk. It may be risk to the company of not adopting AI, as well as the risk of adopting it. A lot have been talked about safety and risk. The second is rewards, which is benefits over cost. The third is lower hanging fruits. This talk is not about future disruption, not about 5 years or 10 years from now. It's about what can we use now with the maximum chance of success, the maximum impact, where it's the right time to use them. And because we are talking about emergence of technology and AI, the concerns here, and this minute, I believe there are two factors that are important consideration, but these consideration may be diluted over time, which is one of the features of AI is whether it's deterministic or probabilistic, because that will determine the risk, determine the cost, and whether we want to use them. I remember when Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the UK, spoke with Elon Musk and asked about AI and asked Elon, what is your concern? And then in one word, he said, probabilistic. That's one of the features. You ask the same thing, same inputs, but different outputs. That is a feature. Whereas deterministic is you always get the same answer every time you put in the same inputs. So I think success will depend on that, and it depends on risk. I'll demonstrate how they interplay. Right, I'll come up with the first use case. I will have 3 use cases plus a bonus. The first one is, the first job is data capture. We need to be able to capture data before we start analyzing them. And I've ranked these 3 components of lower hanging fruits, risk, and reward. What predominated for this idea is actually the technology. Although I said we have 6 million quotes, most of them are done digitally. The people will type in their names and their health online. We still have 10,000 to 12,000 customers who will fill in forms because our customers are typically age 60, 65, or 70, so they prefer forms. So the process will involve, we digitize it, take a picture, scan them, and you have somebody looking at the PDF and type in your name, your address, and you do it 10,000 to 12,000 times a year. With this is that this falls squarely within the realms of possibility of AI. One of the hardest job of computer to compare with human is recognition of patterns. And technology is increasingly capable of recognizing face and so on. So there's technology that can read handwriting and then capture them and process them and so on. Within this project, risk is also a big thing because people's handwriting, because of the variance. In one example, we look at it, the computer thought that the person wrote that they were born in 1755, but what he meant was 1955 by the way he wrote things. So this raised the question of risk. Who is on the hook when AI think that you're so old, or when you say you're smoking, they say, when you say you're smoking 3 a day, the AI says 30 a day. It's this type of risk that we need to manage. And so there's a lot of training and a lot of boundaries, a lot of exciting analytics to be involved here. But the reward is going to be quite clear. We'll free people up. They don't type that. They can do more value-added work. In the next example, it's not the lower hanging fruit that matters. It's the risk that drove it. So this is the real-time personalized quote that I mentioned about, 250,000 rules. What drove us at that time, it was the risk. If we don't do it, because we were market leaders, we are 20, 25% of market share. If we don't do it, we lose that market share. That is frightening enough. And another thing that risk that drove us is the regulations, the ability to explain to the customers why your quote is that, and it has to be reproducible, right? You don't want the same person. They gave you the same inputs today, and in the afternoon they give you the same input. They get different prices. That is a big no-no. So risk predominated. The reward is quite clear. We want the market, the business. And strangely, technology, perhaps it's our confidence with computing power. It needs to analyze many items from one person, complex calculations, come back with an answer very quickly and do it for a lot of people. We feel that it's doable. It has more to do with scale and complexity and connectivity. In the next example that I will raise is the predominant driver was rewards. This is about reading medical literature to understand the relationship between health, medicine, and mortality risk. In one example, we were trying to understand the impact of COVID on mortality. There were 41 million papers related to either infection, COVID vaccine, and so on. We need to narrow it down to 50. This was initially done manually, so you have experts screening through. There's a filter to filter them. But there's a large rewards to be gained if we could use AI, and we're experimenting that. The reward is that you'll be able to free up people with high expertise to focus not on the 41 million papers, but focus on the 50. Technology is there. There are various options that we can find in the ChatGPT. If I ask them, they can do something for us. But our requirements for this is stricter. We need to be able to trace to the evidence. We can't say COVID kills, but you need to say why and where do you find those papers. And we feel that the risk is quite low, because if we have experts focusing on those 50, the risk of missing one paper is not going to dispute and overturn the other 50 papers. They will add to it. And we find that the risk is low and the reward is quite big, because if we can crack it, we can deal with not just one medical condition, we can deal with many, many other medical conditions. Right, that leads me to one bonus use case. This is the data mining analytic chatbot. Many of these use cases have been discussed and filtered through with at least 10 to 20 other colleagues, and we've discussed it widely. And there's a consensus that our industry have gone through a phase, big data. The McKinsey say, let's do big data. We have captured the data, extracted them. We have put them into cloud. They become scalable. We have even put them into a good platform. They used to sit here, and then another one hiding in another table somewhere. Now they're in shiny database sitting next to each other, where they are. But for many people, they are still stuck because they can't see what's in there. To get to them, we'll need programmers, people with SQL skills or database skills or Python skills. And these people, these skill sets are rare and valuable. We normally ask them to develop models and maintain other management information for us. And there's a lot of potential to be gained from this data for management, so people who don't normally use programming skills. They want to gain insight. One example I've seen is people when they build business case. Business cases are important because that are used to get the resource and funding to enable the vision of the company. So where there was a manager who wanted to build business case, and he wanted to understand the average age of a population, because that goes into the support. And then he had to wait for 2 weeks because a Python person is busy. And then when he got the average age and then look at it, actually what I want is the median age, or perhaps I want the distribution, or the oldest or the youngest. So that leads me to think that what capability, the capability that we need for the computer is to enable somebody to use plain English or plain Dutch, normal language, to talk to the database in normal language. And it is in this interaction that we are able to find insights, because very often we can't find it the first time round. We ask question, and that question leads to the next. So this, with the emergence of LLM, AI, suddenly we have an opportunity to link the normal people who speak normally to the computer, to data, and it's powerful. I will list out some of the benefits. It's basically we want to use plain, normal language to get instant answer. You don't wait for 2 weeks. And it enables us to trial. So one question leads to the next. The next answer may be able to lead us to the next better question, and eventually the goal will come out from this interaction. The emerging technology allows us to do that. And this is just the data mining part. There's potential for the next step, which is analyzing them, looking for trend, how do you fit the different charts. And there's a step before that, which is a big job, which is data cleansing and data labeling, which are multi-billion euro work as well in the industry. But if we want to start somewhere, I think the lower hanging fruit is to connect normal person using normal language to ask questions on the data. Right? They can also continue to do a lot of human intelligence. I won't go out to complain them. But, and what I've found is a proposal like this will benefit different types of users. On the different range, you have teams where that's a day job. They are data analytics. We hire them. They are wonderful. They do draw charts. To them, what is important is it will free them up. They can describe the data and answer the questions that managers want to do, and the managers come and ask differently. The value to the growing team, when you're 1 or 2 person, they have all the things in their head. This technology they really welcome it. It will free them up to do their job, especially right now. In the past, when I built the first postcode model of longevity, we had 7 variables, your age, gender, where you live, and this. And I can carefully and lovingly describe each variable in 100 page. Now I look at some of my colleagues, they have 7,000 moving parts. 7,000 is just too much. We really need help to really to dig and understand each of them, because too much information will paralyze us as well. And we have a third group of people. They are the pragmatics. They will be the managers who they don't want to learn Python, or they may know. They just want to understand what's happening, what are the emerging trend. Another feature that we have now is that the availability of all these dashboards. If a manager say, I want to see this, and then they build a dashboard. Dashboards are useful if you look at it weekly. But a lot of these trends, you just look at them once, and then that takes on to the next step. So a chatbot is more useful. So I've started off with saying, looking at these are our core competence. And I think AI can, and some of them, they are improving our competence in data capture, analytics, return with speed to customer, as well as deriving assumptions. And I've also looked at the drivers. So one of the things that we want to look at the drivers, balancing risk, reward, and tech, because that will determine the success and how much we want to go ahead with the projects. Users will have different benefit from it. They may want different things, whether they are established, growing, or pragmatic users. They will demand different criteria. So eventually, especially at this junction, considering between stochastic or probability or deterministic will also determine success, because if it is probabilistic, for example, the customer asks, how many options do I get? In the morning, you say 9. In the afternoon, the same question, you say 5. And then there's a lot to answer to. Why do you say different things at different time? For example, so we may want something deterministic. Or there's options for us to narrow the probability. For example, we've tried to use AI to categorize medical conditions. We've given them 2,000. And then we say to them, there's an option to say, if you don't know, say you don't know. Or you can say, if you don't know, you can guess, but with certain probability of success. So that is still within humans' control. So I wish you all the best, and I look forward to exchanges of ideas on how to optimize to succeed with the emergence of technology and computing power in our industry. Thank you.